As the Souls franchise continues to expand its horizons and branch into new genres, it's only natural that many mechanics come and go as the games evolve. But one mechanic in particular, despite having never returned since its debut in the humble beginnings of Demon's Souls, remains one of the most divisive mechanics that is still discussed relatively frequently in the Souls community today. We all know and love it, or hate it. It's that pesky old world tendency. But regardless of how you feel about it, if you ever get around to playing or replaying Demon's Souls, you'd better do as the Bulletarians do and remember that all of your gameplay will be based around it. If you're familiar with Demon's Souls, you know the drill. Pure white makes things weaker, pure black makes things stronger, and that's a very basic explanation. It still goes a little deeper than that, but I'm not going to go into everything. To achieve pure white, you must avoid dying in body form as much as you can and defeat bosses to shift your world towards white. For achieving pure black, you do the exact opposite, and die in body form as many times as you can to shift your world towards black. And pure black is exactly what I want to achieve for this playthrough. World tendency not only impacts how tough enemies are, but it influences what they drop, and even has the potential to change the NPCs and enemies you'll encounter in a level. In our case, since we're doing a pure black only run, we'll run into several Black Phantom enemies and NPCs that drop exclusive gear, and in this run, that's the only gear we're allowed to use. This means I can't pick up any drops in the levels from the standard enemies or loot any corpses. I can only accept loot if it's dropped by a Black Phantom that is exclusive to pure black tendency. So even if the Black Phantom drops items available at neutral world tendency, I am allowed to use those items. For example, I may take Crescent Moongrass dropped by a Black Phantom Dregling, but I may not buy Crescent Grass from a merchant, or pick it up from standard enemies that are always present in the world. There is one particular type of enemy, the Primeval Demons, that appear just before world tendency hits pure black. But since they appear when world tendency is going towards black, I'm allowed to use the colorless demon souls that they drop. Most of my weapons will come from Black Phantom versions of NPCs that you can find in each Archstone, and thus will require said colorless demon souls to upgrade. However, like I said earlier, if a Black Phantom version of an enemy gives me a non-exclusive weapon or consumable, I am allowed to use it, but I won't be able to upgrade it unless I happen to find a Black Phantom enemy that drops the proper upgrade material. I'm allowed to use souls obtained from any source, including bosses and standard enemies, because it would be too complicated to try to keep track of them otherwise. The only soul items I can use are ones that I find in areas that are only unlocked in pure black world tendency. While I won't be duping any souls this time around, if farming something is too inconvenient, I'll resort to duping to save time. In the end, this only applied to arrows that dropped from one particular enemy type. One last thing I want to mention before I start the run is character or soul tendency. I not only am playing with permanent pure black world tendency, but will be trying to achieve pure black character tendency as soon as I can, to get the items from the NPC quest that is only doable when you have pure black soul tendency. This is useful for playing online since it increases your attack power as an invader, but in PvE its effects are purely detrimental, and of course that's all that will apply to me in this run. I actually will be playing online for this run. I'll be using the Archstone server that allows players to select their own world tendency to make things less complicated. Usually, you wouldn't be able to start with pure black unless you were playing 14 years ago when the official servers were still up and held special events that changed everyone's world tendency. So I guess in a way, we're kind of emulating that experience with the Archstone server. I believe that's everything I need to mention before we start, so let's get to it. At either pure black or pure white tendency, the side door at the beginning of Boletaria will be open, so we're free to loot whatever we can find inside. It seems I've underestimated what it means to be in a pure black world. Even the most basic enemies are going to hit really hard, so it's best to play defensively until I can at least get some proper equipment. For now, I'm going to sprint past all the Black Phantoms and focus on collecting all of these soul items. After all, these are the only ones I'll be able to pick up for the rest of the playthrough. To get our first weapon, we simply need to lure Meralda off the edge for an easy kill. Watch your step though, or you'll be going down the slip and slide. It's only fair that we let Meralda have her turn on the slide, then we can reload the game to pick up the guillotine axe from her spawn point. Before we go, we should also pick up all the extra goodies down here. We have a poison resistance ring, a very useful colorless demon soul, and finally, the brushwood set and shield. While slowly climbing the ladder, there will be plenty of time to contemplate our life choices and plan our next course of action. I decided to go back out to the courtyard to get some healing items. You can spawn the enemies in one at a time to make things easier. One thing I like about the Black Phantom enemies and Demon Souls is that every single one of them has a guaranteed drop. In this case, every Black Phantom Dregling drops a piece of healing grass. After I collected some grass, I proceeded to the rest of the level where I encountered the Dregling Merchant. This guy's not difficult to kill at all. He's basically a regular Dregling with an inflated health bar. Once I kill him, you can see in the top left that unlike World Tendency, Character Tendency updates in real time. I suppose I'll free a Strava even if there isn't much in it for me, but after that, there's no reason to stall the phalanx any longer. I'm gonna play it safe this time and focus on taking out all the hoplites first. The hoplites themselves don't have much health, but they do have strength in numbers and can easily one-shot me if I stay in the path of their spears. I have to be careful because even if I survive one hit, if I get stunned out in the open, it's over. In times like these where you can't tank through the damage, it's much easier to kill most of the hoplites, even if it is a bit time-consuming. At least I'm not doing it with my fist this time. That took like 20 minutes on neutral World Tendency, so I can only imagine the horror on pure black. Once it has no more hoplites to protect it, the phalanx goes down quickly, and as a reward for our perseverance in a demonic world, all enemies, including bosses, will drop extra souls in pure black World Tendency. Hopefully the extra souls we get while clearing out enemies will make up for the lost soul items. For now, I'll put my levels into the basic stats. After all, we're gonna need the extra health as our soul tendency goes down. Ideally, I want to stay in body form as often as possible because of the aforementioned reduction of health that occurs in soul form as your tendency shifts towards black. So it would probably be a good idea to, not sprint past the enemies without any healing items. My tunnel vision could only see the red glow of guaranteed loot in the distance, but even then, are a few more pieces of grass really worth the ultimate sacrifice? It's nice to have some extra healing items for the Tower Knight, but what good are healing items when most attacks one-shot you? I don't know what the plan was here. Under no circumstances should you get between him and the wall. That's like Tower Knight 101. I'm only 2 bosses in and I'm already losing it. All that Elden Ring has spoiled me. I completely forgot to check up on my weapon durability. Even if I'm not allowed to buy anything off of merchants, I can still use their other services, like leveling up for example, so I'm allowed to repair it with the blacksmith. After repairing my weapon, I finally toppled the Tower Knight, and was able to finish up the fight in 2 cycles with my axe. So from here on out, the fight wasn't so bad. Now I can finally move on to another Archstone, but man, I can already tell that pure black tendency is gonna be brutal. The boss fight, combined with the repeated run back, means that I have a lot of souls to spend on levels. As usual, these are mostly going into vitality and endurance, with a little bit of strength to be sure I meet the requirement for weapons later on. Even with the extra endurance, the brushwood set is still too heavy for me, so I guess I'm only going to be wearing the leggings. Whenever I can only put on a single armor piece, I always choose the leggings since it typically looks the least awkward. Aside from the fashion, it will give us the highest defense for the lowest weight, which could be the difference between life and death. Here in Stonefang Tunnel, my first mission is to take out the local primeval demon. This little guy is just chilling under the lift. It's mostly harmless, so we can hack away until it drops its soul for us. The colorless demon soul is not a guaranteed drop, so if you do this challenge, always remember to back up your save before killing a primeval demon. I was lucky enough in this playthrough to not have to use my backup, but you can't rely on the game to always be that kind. As I progressed through this level, I had to be sure to not take body form for granted. This is a privilege that I can only enjoy so many times in this playthrough, so it must be treated as such. It is exactly for this reason that I went back to that defensive playing style I mentioned earlier, and always waited for my turn before attacking. One of those Phantom Knights in Boletaria dropped some throwing knives, which could potentially help me thin out the crowd in here, but with the damage they do, I would need a lot more than 3 to clear out even a single enemy, and I don't think farming for those would be worth it. For now, I'm going to get to the shortcut as soon as possible. There's a Black Phantom miner here among the usual group. He drops Sharpstone, but sadly the Guillotine Axe requires Hardstone, and not a single Black Phantom enemy drops that, so we're stuck with the unupgraded version. The damage it does to the Armor Spider is a little sad, but at least it's still yellow damage, so it could be worse. I got kinda lazy here and was dead set on beating it without any healing items, but that state of mind didn't really work out for me. I can do most of the fight without getting hit, but sometimes the spider decides to do something weird to throw me off. So yeah, I changed my mind and went to get a stack of crescent grass from the Dreglings. But of course, when I have all this grass to spare, I only get hit once or twice. Funny how that works out, isn't it? After this, I already have plans for the next weapon I want to get. We'll need a little magic to use it. Early on in the Tower of Latria, we can encounter the Black Phantom Riddell and challenge him for his phosphorescent pull. He's very tanky, and can potentially take out all of our health in one hit, even in body form, so we'll need to be very patient to kill him this early. It's also not a very wise idea to fight him in a small corridor. If just one of our attacks whiffs, we have nowhere to run and he'll box us in before we can dodge roll. His charged attack is particularly dangerous. I can't stagger him out of the animation, so that will be a trade I lose no matter what. The safest way to do this is to fight him in the open area around where he spawns. If you run out of stamina and he doesn't give up chase, you can usually walk out of range of his swings or be able to roll away and re-establish the distance you want. The key is to swing right before he approaches, or the moment he's programmed to attack. If you do this right, even with a slow weapon, your attack should always come out first, and you can stunlock him until you run out of stamina. If you walk back a little, he should also try to retreat most of the time, so you have some space to replenish your stamina before repeating the process. But if you're feeling worried, you could always swing one less time and instead use that last bit of stamina for a roll. You can see from the damage I'm doing that this took a while, but getting the pull was so worth it. It was one of the most helpful tools I had in this playthrough. But it is a magic weapon, so I'm gonna hold off on using it for now since all the enemies here have decent resistance to magic. There's even more surprises in the prison on pure black tendency. Just when you're about to make it to the shortcut, the game plays a cruel joke on you and suddenly you've been one-shot by a Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayers make this regular Black Phantom look like a weakling in comparison. As for the Fool's Idol, there's really nothing out of the ordinary with this one. I've had this one get a little out of hand many times, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happened again. The worst thing for me is that this fight challenges the player's situational awareness, which I happen to have none of. You know what? Let's try leaving some of the prisoners alive this time. It might be useful if we can get them to step on the traps for us. I don't want to have too many of them running around, because they like to gang up on me and interrupt my swings. On my final attempt, I got really lucky with her teleporting. For some reason, attacking the first clone made the other one vanish, and the real one never teleported away. And when she did teleport away, she teleported right back to where she just was, and this happened twice. This was like the best luck I've ever had with this fight, in all honesty. Now, I just need some more dexterity to be able to wield my trusty pole. Next, I want to get started on Mephistopheles' questline. There are 2 relevant NPCs in the Shrine of Storms, but before I can even go through the level, I have to defeat the Black Phantom who's gatekeeping the entrance. While the same strategy I use for Riddell will work against Satsuki, Satsuki is a bit more aggressive, so I can't chase him down as easily. However, now I have a pole. I can use this extra range to my advantage to keep him away from me and dictate the pace of the fight. Like I said, the strategy is the same as it was earlier. I have to attack him just before he gets close enough to perform his own attack. That way, his swing will never come out quicker than mine. After all of this planning, and even managing to get his health below half, there was just one little thing I failed to take into account. He can heal to full health. All my hard work, gone in the blink of an eye. Yeah, I kinda just lost the will to fight after he pulled that little stunt. So we'll come back to that later. For now, I'll focus on getting some of those other things on my to-do list done. For instance, there's another primeval demon in the Tower of Latria. That's one more colorless soul for our collection. Since I still need some more decks for the phosphorescent pull, I'm gonna farm for a bit, so we can do as much damage as possible to Satsuki, and not have to worry about our attacks bouncing off of anything. The Red-Eyed Knight is a great way to farm for easy souls. And not to mention, we can get healing items from his Black Phantom friends that spawn behind him. The goal is to get them all to fall off before they can stab you, but you get the picture. Once we've gotten enough souls, we can finally get the full physical attack bonus from our pull. The extra damage I was doing gave me the confidence to match his aggression, and hey, backstabs are a thing too. Don't be scared to go for those. It pays off if you can get a chain going. You can exploit his AI as well. He's programmed to try to back off and heal, so it was much easier to kill him once he became more passive. Now his sword is finally mine. We'll still need more decks to use the hiltless, but it will be a worthwhile investment. Now that he's finally off my back, I can actually go through the level. There's a good amount of Black Phantoms scattered about to throw you off guard, but the boss will still be as easy as always, so thankfully we won't have to do the run back again. Alright, just one more cycle I think will do it. Oh, that's a wall. Well, it's okay. It's just the adjudicator, so I should live this, right? No comment. I'm proud of him, I guess? Didn't I say that I wanted to see this guy winning or something like that? Well, you know what they say, be careful what you wish for. Okay, as humorous as this whole situation is, I really need to stop getting myself trapped on a wall. This time, I'll just be sure to roll out of the way. Wait, no, why did I press the attack button? Despite everything, I can't stay mad at this guy. I mean, I ended up beating him with a broken weapon, so I think he deserved at least some semblance of victory. Still, I can't ignore the fact that I just died 3 times to Adjudicator. It just goes to show that you can't take anything lightly in pure black tendency. Anyways, now that we can wield the hiltless, let's put it to the test and take care of Yurt in the Nexus. While I could have just knocked him off the cliff as usual when I rescued him, I wanted to be sure that Mephistopheles still spawned in afterwards, so just in case, I brought him to the Nexus before killing him. We still have plenty of things to do in 4-2. First, we need to fall into patches as Trap, and rescue Saint Urbane. Doing that's very easy. All we have to do is take out the small fry blocking the exit, and we're home free. The next thing is very important, as in saving the whole run kind of important. If you kill a primeval demon and have at least 3 colorless demon souls, Urbane gives you a powerful healing miracle called Recovery. That's right, we have a healing miracle, so we don't have to farm for grass 8 million times. Obviously, I'll have to do a good amount of farming to get enough faith for 2 miracle slots, but there actually is something I need to farm anyway, so we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I realized that I can't beat Storm King in this run if I can't get a bow, but thankfully, there is a specific skeleton just before 4-2 that has a small chance to drop the compound shortbow. Unfortunately, the drop rate is less than 1%. But the good news is that it also drops arrows in packs of 5 or 10, so by the time we get the bow, we'll likely have plenty of arrows as well. Now we can memorize Recovery, but what can we even do with a miracle without a talisman? Don't worry, I'm already a couple steps ahead on this one. If you saw the last playthrough, you already know that killing Black Phantom Scurver in World 2 is the earliest way to get the Talisman of Beasts. He's not exactly an easy mark, so we'll have to use the environment to our advantage and carefully avoid his fireballs. What I did was hide behind the pillars to trick him into positioning himself near the cliff as he tried to get me in his line of sight. Once he's right where I want him, I have to quickly knock him off the ledge before he has time to cast another fireball. From here, it's just the usual quit out and return to his spawn point for the loot. We need both magic and faith for the Talisman of Beasts, but even if we don't reach the requirements, we can still use a weakened version of recovery, which is certainly better than nothing at this point. The only world I haven't gone to yet is the Valley of Defilement. As to why I've been putting this place off, I think the footage speaks for itself. However, if I do manage to stick it out and make it through all the enemies, the boss itself is really easy, and beating it yields a much higher reward than some mere levels. If we can get to 5-2, we'll have a way to farm for Stones of Ephemeral Eyes, which is a guaranteed drop from Black Phantom Depraved Ones. Man, being able to be in body form whenever I need to would make such a big difference in this playthrough, so I've got to stay strong, unless I catch the plague. Then there's nothing I can do. Please, please just grant me this one wish. Let me die in the midst of battle. This entire time, I've been inadvertently shifting my soul tendency back towards white by killing named phantoms, so I'd better start fixing that right away. It was a long time coming, but I've reached Leechmonger and can hopefully defeat it once and for all, so I can get out of this hellhole before I go completely insane. I've been trying to get past the enemies for hours. Trying to save your grass with no cling ring, while also not getting hit or poisoned by something, is not a fun time. Taking out the Black Phantom enemies is not without its perks. I got a piece of black turpentine off of one of those guys, so we'll be able to put it to good use against the Leechmonger. Or maybe not. That's very depressing. You've got to be kidding me. Well, it's time to do something else. I'm not suffering through that level again, so I will do everything in my power to make sure I can't possibly lose again. As I said earlier, I need to get my character tendency to pure black to start Mephistopheles' quest. I'm gonna do a few assassinations right away to get the Ephemeral Eyes as a reward. Saint Urbain doesn't even care about his followers. He just sits there watching and munching on his bread like he's eating popcorn at the movies. He's also a very easy target himself. Same goes for the Freaky faction across the room. And while we're at it, Patches just so happens to be stationed at the Nexus. You know the rest. I don't know what Patches knows about the soul arts, but it must be pretty damn important for her to give me a colorless demon soul in exchange for his, silence. Anyways, we're back to full health and body form, and no longer in danger of being one-shotted by any of its attacks. So the Leechmonger is no longer a threat, especially after crushing the mass in the middle to stop it from healing. After one more quick level into Vitality, I'm gonna jump right into the next boss fight, the Flame Lurker. I thought this would be a good chance to use the Brushwood Shield. It has good defense against fire and physical damage, so it seems perfect for this fight. I figured whatever it absorbs would suffice, even without meeting the strength requirement. It did not suffice. I don't think I have much of a chance in soul form without doing the cheese unless I get good and learn how to dodge his moves. So I'm taking the easy way out and popping that other eye stone for good measure. At least now that Leechmonger is cleared, I could farm for more anytime I want to, though I doubt it will be easy. I got a lucky Darkmoon grass drop from a depraved one, so I'd better use it wisely. I don't have any armor on, so even in body form, I'm still very weak and can easily lose the fight to a mistimed roll. The Phosphorescent Pull is a good call here since he's weak against magic. As long as I can deal with his aggression, using a hit and run strategy should work well. As the fight progresses, he gets more and more aggressive, and the flames around him get brighter and brighter, which can make it hard to see what he's doing. I couldn't get him to stop pursuing me so I could stop and heal for a second, so I had to go back to the cheese spot for safety. I had gotten this far without cheesing him, but the familiar sight of him endlessly treading towards me, perfectly within reach of the pull, and guarding that precious red-hot soul I needed for upgrades, was enough for me to drop the act and embrace my dishonorable ways. For now, I'm still sticking with Vitality since I'll be in soul form most of the run. And now there's some good news. Blacksmith Ed can now upgrade special weapons using colorless demon souls. As you can see, the raw damage output isn't going to improve much just yet. However, the real value of this weapon comes from its MP regeneration that gets faster the higher you upgrade it. Combining this with a healing spell will make clearing out levels so much easier, because I don't have to worry about running out of grass as much. Plus, as we upgrade it, the damage scaling will get better and better, especially on the magic portion. The next fight is Dragon God, so let's just go through the motions. I have a lot of health, so even though I got caught between breaking stuff, I still survived. I suppose the weapon I use for this doesn't really matter, but I've grown to like my pole, so I use that. I'm actually going to start upgrading my dex a little more for the next one on my list though. You know, if I rush ahead, I can get that other colorless demon soul right away. I can feel the influence of the demon souls on my own, the endless hunger for souls, the indulgence and greed that only brings ruin as I pursue it mindlessly like a beast. So back to the Valley of Defilement I go, the only place fitting for a soul as filthy as mine. I may not have any lotuses to cure the poison, but I do have the Ring of Poison Resistance. I was pleasantly surprised by how useful this ring is. I was expecting a mediocre boost, but no! If you've been leveling endurance at all, the extra resistance added by the ring is enough to make it through the whole swamp part without being poisoned, assuming you take quick breaks on the islands to let the meter go back down. Of course, in this game you can't see the meter, so you'll have to take your best guess at its progress. Sometimes I stayed in the swamp too long, or fell off a ramp and got poisoned anyway, so that was no fun. I have condensed hours of pain and suffering into a short clip of my attempts to race against time and make it to the shortcut before the poison killed me. I had to make sure I still had some emergency grass in cases where my MP recovery would be too slow to act. I was a bit tired of attempting to make it to the shortcut, so I tried my luck at Selin Vinland instead, who will drop a new weapon on defeat. This fight is honestly pretty unfair since she gets to roll in the swamp and I can't. And unlike other games where you can still fat roll, in Demon Souls, you just don't get to roll at all. I got sick of trying this as well, and came to the conclusion that I should be investing my time into getting stronger overall, instead of throwing myself into piles of enemies. After killing the primeval demon of the Shrine of Storms, my pole could be upgraded to +2, which is a small start towards some better scaling. Once I did that, I went to the classic farming spot and killed the Reaper until I had gotten 100k souls. These souls went towards not only getting the 24 dex I needed to wield the blind, but also towards reaching 30 vitality, with the leftovers going to endurance. After all these attempts at reaching the shortcut, I have learned that you do not try to sprint past the mosquitoes. You gotta suck it up and kill them one by one. Trust me, it doesn't feel good to barely survive a hit from one of the dagger dudes, and have to wait 5 minutes for enough MP to heal, only to be done in 2 seconds later by a mosquito. No rushing, not this time. I am focused, and willing to do whatever it takes to reach that shortcut. I don't have the mental fortitude to do this all over again. The good thing is, once it's done, and now that the runback doesn't carry any risk, I can do a 360 to be right back at the Dirty Colossus. I chose the hiltless this time, not because I thought it would necessarily be better, but just for the sake of doing something different. Plus, I thought stacking the health you lose on hit with the damage over time from the flies would make for an interesting challenge, since this is one of the bosses that can be hard to make challenging. But then again, this is pure black tendency. A Dregling could give me a dirty look and I'd die. I mean, did I honestly think I would do this on the first try with my current track record? I feel like I can't blame the world tendency on this one though. I expertly chose the perfect angle to get hit from behind the brazier each time. This is the game's way of telling me to stop being a wimp and fight. Once you get rid of all the extra casing, he's not so bad. Walking around in circles seems to be his weakness, and if he moves his arm, just roll and you'll be fine. See, what was I even trying to run from? Even on pure black, this guy's easy. With just a bit more strength, I can one-hand the hiltless if I need to, and after that fight, I think another farming session is in order. You can see on the left that I farmed to meet the faith and intelligence requirements of my talisman. I've reached the point in the playthrough where the weak recovery won't cut it anymore. With another quick pull upgrade before we go, I think we're ready to give Selin a rematch. This time, I come with a new plan. You could say I've been doing a little reconnaissance lately, and found the perfect way to trap her so she can't possibly run away to heal. She's fairly aggressive, so as long as you don't run away too fast, you should be able to lead her to the next large island on the path. My problem with her spawn island was the fact that all the obstacles were breakable, so it was hard to limit her path into the swamp. There's a conveniently located island a little further down from where she spawns that comes with a big pillar that can't be broken, and as a bonus, doesn't require getting into the swamp. While she's trapped there, we can keep hitting her as much as we like using the method I already used for the previous invaders. Don't panic if she escapes. You can shepherd her over to the other side and she won't be able to get out. There is a swamp on this part though, so it's a little more dangerous. But if her health is low enough, her AI refuses to perform any other action besides the heal. So the win, not to mention the blind, is guaranteed at that point. I used this for the funniest purpose I could think of, to slay her own brother. Okay, there are way too many people talking at once here. Jokes about the Vinlands aside, the blind does have an advantage for this fight in particular, and that also happens to be its main feature. As the name suggests, this weapon is blind to shields, and hits right through them. The only problem with it here is the fact that it's unupgraded and Garl Vinland is immune to the bleed it inflicts. The parry attempt from across the room, I can respect it. Oh, that's right, I forgot about this dude's range. Okay, this man is a magician. I've rewatched this clip several times and I still don't understand how or when I got parried. But that reminds me, I can parry too. The blind may be a good choice for this fight, but the hiltless is even better. You know why? The health loss doesn't count for critical hits, so we can take advantage of the high damage with no downsides. I even performed a little magic trick of my own and parried him through the fabric of space to swap sides and block his escape route. I bet you're not feeling so tough now. This wouldn't be a Garl Vinland fight if I didn't disrespect him and go for the unnecessary finisher with another parry. Alright, you know the drill, hand it over. We've gotten quite a bit more levels since our last trip to Boletaria, so I figure it's about time to wrap up the assassinations and get those last few colorless demon souls. It wasn't easy, but I managed to get the Ring of Keys despite the Black Phantom official's jump scare. I couldn't get past them even when I came prepared for the blockade, but at least now I can farm for eyes, so it doesn't feel as devastating to lose body form. Bjor is hilariously easy to kill, so now we can get that juicy soul from Mephistopheles. We had a good run, but this is where I'll have to cut things short. The quest rewards from this point on are useless to me, so now it's my turn to choose the target. It's too bad she doesn't drop the set she's wearing, but at least we still get some decent items from her. And now that we got that other soul, we can max out the phosphorescent pole, giving it an S scaling in intelligence and even faster MP regen. Even in cases where I won't be using the weapon for attacking, I can keep it on my back for passive regen, so this weapon will never run out of usefulness. Take the Shrine of Storms for example. Many enemies here take more damage from the hiltless, so that's the weapon I use for this area. I feel like the enemy placement in pure black is especially mean-spirited here. Even the corridor that was once a safe zone is now home to a katana skeleton and his buddies. There's only so much of this run back that a single person can take, so I did what I could to hopefully make things better for next time. Mephistopheles left us one more secret gift in the form of her gold mask. We can trade this with Sparkly for yet another colorless demon soul, and we can use this one to upgrade the hiltless. Unlike the pole, this weapon starts off with pretty good scaling already, so we should see some good results if we continue leveling Dex. I think I finally found a use for all those soul remains I got while farming for the bow, but my aim leaves much to be desired. Aiming the bow is much easier. I use this to lure the laser ghost away from the Reaper. This also encourages the ghost to do a melee attack, so I can easily take him out, and proceed to do the same with the Reaper before he has a chance to retaliate. The first one up against Old Hero is the Blind. I haven't used this weapon too much, so I figured I'd give it another chance. The only thing I'm a little worried about is the low durability. Old Hero is one of the tankier bosses, so it could very well break before I even finish the fight. This risk is exacerbated by the fact that it does pitiful damage without upgrades, and of course this boss is immune to bleed as well. Even though it's doing low damage, I can still see its potential to be a high DPS weapon because for what it is, the damage is still adding up faster than I thought. It sucks, but the limited amount of colorless souls makes it impossible to test out all the special weapons to their full potential. Unless you dupe them, you pick your favorite weapon and it's ride or die. In my case, I only had enough to upgrade another weapon once, so maybe it would be a good idea to use that one instead of the blind. In order to save myself from doing that run back again, I went into body form to make the health management aspect of the hiltless easier. With so much health to spare, the health loss is negligible, and for the most part, it's outpaced by the damage I do to him. Plus, removing the risk of being one-shotted takes a little weight off my shoulders, and for once, I am actually fighting him up close and not using hit-and-run tactics. With my main stats looking pretty well-rounded, my next goal is to have enough MP for 2 consecutive casts of recovery, so 120 MP. And now, we prepare ourselves for the Storm King. As I explained earlier, I'm going to be duping my holy arrows so I don't have to farm them from the skeleton. This will save me a lot of time. I could definitely use the surplus of arrows since my bow isn't doing too much damage, plus it's a short bow, so short range is a given. Yeah, we might be here a while. Let me in! The storm's coming! Let me in! Are you serious right now? Can't I just have the victory anyway? Fine, I'll wait for the next one. Boom, 39 damage. Am I free now? It's not quite enough for 120 MP, but a couple more levels should do it. It's been a while since I last set foot in here. I almost forgot about this place, but we have bosses to kill. Pure Mercury Stone seems like a really good drop, but the poison upgrade path doesn't start until +3. Otherwise, I definitely would have infused my axe with poison by now. In hindsight, I bet I could have poison infused my parrying dagger, but of course when I was actually doing the playthrough I didn't think of that. Anyways, what's done is done, so there's no use worrying about it. After all, I'm doing just fine with what I have, and any weapon with elemental damage will do just fine against the man-eaters. I am in body form, so it's okay if I make a few mistakes. But I definitely can't get too cocky or things could get out of hand quickly. See what I mean? This shockwave could have been the end of me if I had been positioned just slightly differently. It's never worth the risk. Let them come to you. I don't care how long they stall me. I have all the time in the world. Let them fly if they want to. After all, that's more MP for me the longer they take. Once the first one is gone, the second one will be much easier. He was being pretty passive and flying around in circles for a couple minutes, but eventually I was able to get him to attack me, and that was that. Alright, now, there's a chance for something really interesting to happen in the playthrough. I am online, so I could potentially get a real person for the old monk fight. Once I returned from the Nexus to challenge the old monk, I noticed that it wasn't letting me skip the cutscene. Could this mean what I think it means? Yep, it does. We got invaded. Black Phantom's Slam Meat and Door has arrived to challenge us. Okay, this is pretty exciting. I can't say I'm well versed in Demon Souls PvP, so I'm sure this fight will be interesting. I noticed as I was going up the stairs that I forgot to set my world back to pure black, but it's not a big deal. It's not like I can just bail on the poor guy. The servers are dead as it is. This dude's probably been waiting all day for some action, so that would just be rude. I was originally going to use the blind for the offline version of Old Monk, but since that weapon goes through shields, I feel like that would be dishonest or something, so I'll just use the pole. Oh, so that's how it is. Here I was, going out of my way to not be too dishonest, and this guy's camping at the fog wall for a backstab. Okay, I see. I suppose this is an invasion, not a duel. There's no need for demons like us to follow all that etiquette nonsense. Slam Meat's got a pretty simple build, a hammer and shield setup. I'll be honest, I expected someone to come in and troll me with a hyper mode setup, but this is actually just a run-of-the-mill PvP fight. Since Demon Souls doesn't have any sort of upgrade matchmaking, the damage I did to him seemed disproportionately high, so I have no idea if he was anywhere close to my upgrade level. Maybe I should have went with the blind after all. The damage in that case would have been a bit more even. I feel like I did this guy dirty by just spamming R1 and stunning him. Is this the essence of PvP in Boletaria? He did go for some predictive parries, which I respect. For some reason, I instinctively rolled away every time I got a guard break, but at least it gave him some time to heal so we could have a longer fight. I actually let him pull off a healing spell because I wasn't sure if he was casting Wrath of the Gods or not, but once I realized what was happening, I still had time to punish that. As the fight came to a close, I hit him with a single R2 as a mix-up, and of course finished with more R1 spam. Well, whoever you are, slam meat indoor, I enjoyed the fight, so if you're watching this, I hope you had fun too. Having it level MP to 119 is so cruel. We just need one more sliver. There's nothing to do now but the final levels of Boletaria. Thankfully, I can easily make it to the Penetrator by distracting the knights with soul remains. I'm surprised they didn't add more Black Phantom Knights to this fog gate. That would be Dark Souls 2 NG plus levels of cruelty right there. Now for the main attraction, the Penetrator. This time I'm committed to the blind. While he has no shield for us to penetrate, the fast pace of this fight feels much more suited to the moveset of a curved sword. Plus, his lower health pool makes it far less likely for our weapon to break mid-fight. Even though we have a lot of health, he still hits really hard. I also had to hard swap the pole to my left hand so I could recover MP in the fight, and it's pretty miraculous for me to do that without dying. Surprisingly, even though this can be one of the more difficult fights, this is one of the few bosses in the playthrough that I was able to do in a single attempt. It may have been a long fight, but it was very fun and kept me on my feet the entire time, whether I was weaving between attacks for quick pokes with the blind, or running around in circles to stall him out for more MP. Speaking of MP, we finally have enough of it for 2 casts of recovery. The 3 Phantoms of the King are never too bad to deal with. The Penetrator guy always goes down first, and the next one in line is the Spear. He's a perfect test subject for the blind. Giant shield be damned. My little bug wing looking sword is beating it. I can tell that this would be really annoying to deal with in PvP. I'm glad I didn't use it on the old monk on second thought. The only phantom that gave me some trouble was the bow wielder. Once she takes out the sword and shield, she has the advantage since I can't stunlock her anymore. The blind probably would have been better for her as well since she likes to block so much. Those 3 bozos will give me 90k souls in total on pure black tendency, and with nothing else to really level, I put them into dex for some extra damage on the hiltless. The dragon still has not failed to make my life worse. Okay, Alant, give it your all. Aunt. Obviously, everything he does is going to one-shot me in soul form, but to be fair, I did egg him on. I'm gonna do something a little dishonest and take some advice from the comments. A little while back, one of you told me that in Demon Souls, if you quit the game the moment you die, the game will spit you out right back at the lift entrance with all of your healing items and body form if you had it. You could do this for any boss, I suppose, but the comment specifically mentioned using it to save time on the Alant run back, especially if you don't feel like taking 30 minutes to kill the dragon. This is one of the oldest tricks in the book for OG Demon Souls players, but it was gone from the franchise so quickly that it became one of those things lost to time. Yes, it's still cheating, but it does give you a chance to stay in the rhythm of the fight without getting too burnt out from the run back, no pun intended. Alant is resistant to magic, so I chose the hiltless for him. Proper health management is really important against him, even in body form. If I lose just a little health from hitting him, I already get dangerously close to one-shot territory. After playing Elden Ring a few more times, I've been conditioned to expect the boss to chase me every time I try to heal, but don't worry, Demon Souls isn't that advanced. If he's not right next to you, you have plenty of time to heal. The AoE is a good time to use recovery, or, if I'm close enough, get some free hits. And of course, don't forget to finish the fight in style with a charged attack. Now for the true King Alant. He looks weak to fire, so I'm using fire. I just noticed that if I had enough stamina, I could stunlock him forever with the rapier. Even with my stagger machine, I somehow let him hit me twice. Ah yes, the Soul Brent. A weapon that only does damage when soul tendency is pure black. I sure wonder what I could even do with a weapon like this. Well, that concludes my somewhat Halloween-themed playthrough of Demon Souls. I had long mentioned how when it comes to Demon Souls challenges, the biggest challenge is making the game challenging in itself, and with this run, I got exactly what I asked for. This was the most unforgiving run I've ever done in Demon Souls. I should have expected nothing less of a demonic world of pure darkness. Be careful, a demonic challenge like this will corrupt your heart of gold until nothing remains but a twisted, unfeeling demon.